Hello, welcome back. It's not been that long for me. I just finished editing the last video, but I was like, screw it. We're on a roll. I feel good. I posted the video. I was like, why not do another one? So we're gonna be doing a leg day today. I already have my food. I already have my pre-workout. So we're gonna drive over to the gym really quickly. I'm gonna blast some music. I don't know what I'm gonna listen to yet, but it's probably gonna be some like, I don't know. I need to get in the mood. I finally can train RDLs again, and I'm super excited. So also, I didn't really go into too much detail about my my little lump. I talked a little bit about it potentially being cancer, but and some other things. But just to preface this, I was really stupid. I left it alone for like over a year, right? And I didn't think much of it. But like, I thought it was a hernia for a while, and I was like, I gotta get it taken care of eventually. But I never really diagnosed it, which was kind of the concern for a while, but I realized I was just procrastinating getting it checked out, which I no longer will be doing. We'd be smarter about my health. But yeah, no, it was a little bit concerning after a year, because then I realized, because my girlfriend's obviously a kinesiologist, she's, you know, pretty good at understanding the human body. She also was kind of putting this off and telling me like, hey, that's close to your lymph node. And that's not good, right? Then went to my primary care. My primary care thought it was an enlarged lymph node. So yeah, I was a little bit concerned. So for the past few weeks, I've just been eating, not caring, and you know, I wasn't at a body fat where that was a good idea. So I gained like another 2-3% body fat. So it kind of sucks, but we're gonna spend some time just cutting it off really quickly, and then we'll be back to a comfortable body fat percentage again rather soon. But I'm not gonna go too fast just because my mental state isn't still great, but it's better than where it was before. So I think we're at a good place to be able to go into a deficit, shred off a little bit, train. So that's the plan. I'm announcing it here, obviously, so hopefully I actually stick with it. But let's get to the gym. Let me get into the mood, and then we can train.
Let's have another shopping mall.
Voices in my head again, trapped in a war inside my own skin. They're pulling me under. But still feel the pain. I shout in my soul. Would you cover your eyes? If I told you the truth, would you dare me to lie? I keep it all inside because I know the man is everything but kind. Voices in my head again, beating me in a war I can't win. I can hear them now, swept in a game inside my own.
Okay, so we just got back from the gym. I was supposed to yap and talk to you guys before I trained, but low-key I was just cracked off of caffeine, went straight in. So yeah, I guess we're gonna have to chat now, even though my brain is not really functioning well. But I need to get some food in, and then I also have to cardio in. So I'm gonna go deplete my brain of more oxygen really quickly, and then we can have a conversation on science. That'll go well. But no, for real, I need to get my cardio done. I got some work I gotta do today, so I'll do my best to make some time to sit down and chat with you guys because we'll get there, okay? You'll understand in just a second, okay? But right now I gotta go do stuff.
Oh, God.
All right, guys, so it's the next day. I completely forgot to film anything, so I figured we would have a conversation now, specifically just because there was a little bit of drama, not like anything crazy with the whole bulking main gain thing again, even though I feel like this has been talked about quite a bit. But me and the scientific Snitch here are kind of wanting to sit down and have a conversation and hopefully, I don't know, simplify and clarify whatever needs to be clarified, and hopefully make it really understandable so that way nobody is confused, which I'm sure people are still going to be confused. But would you like to start and talk about, I guess, what the differences are between bulking and then our definition of what like main gaining is?
Yeah, sure. So pretty much the idea that I've been trying to propagate is literally just the physiological definition of what maintenance actually is. I'm not trying to, like, the thing is that in the fitness space, we've come up with this really, I guess you could say like a convoluted, like very...
oversimplified.
I would say it's like a mixture of convoluted and oversimplified, because in a way, people make it more complicated than it needs to be. And on the same spectrum, they're making it overcomplicated based on an oversimplification.
Which is what I was saying. So it's oversimplified to the point of it being wrong, so then people just get confused.
Well, I mean, they overcomplicate the process of muscle growth, which is needing to constantly gain fat and lose fat, gain fat and lose fat. And this notion that you have to do this is based on an oversimplified concept of what maintaining and like maintenance actually is.
Yeah. So really quickly, I just want to say something, because this is actually a question I get a lot with like the main gaining thing. It's like, okay, so how do we gain muscle and keep our body fat percentage the exact same? And to that point, I would just like to really preface this by saying, when we are trying to use like TDE calculations and we're guesstimating maintenance calories, there is never a day, I mean, maybe there's a day in your life randomly, but there's never a time where you're going to be able to be 100% accurate to your exact TDE, because it's all just estimates. We're going off of estimates. We don't really know how many calories our body burns exactly to the T. So like, let's say your maintenance is on like one day, for some reason it's 22,765 calories and 0.33, whatever. Okay. Let's say for some miracle, you're able to hit that exact number. Yes, theoretically you would gain literally nothing, like no body fat in that day. Okay, cool. But is that really realistic? Are you going to be on your maintenance calories like exactly? No. So if you're aiming for like main gaining, you're essentially just trying to stay as close as humanly possible to that maintenance number, while simultaneously trying to account for variance in that like range, because it's going to be higher some days, it's going to be lower some days. So that's kind of where like the whole like, okay, so maybe add 50 to 100 calories to your estimated maintenance comes from, because it's not actually your maintenance. We don't know exactly what your maintenance calories are because they're changing. So here, Ella wants to clarify more.
Also, just to clarify, it's not extra calories, for the love of God.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's not like extra. I'm not saying extra like on top of your maintenance. It's more like you're overestimating in a sense.
Let me quickly break it down.
Okay.
So when we're talking about maintenance, we're talking about specifically the definition that we're talking about. And this is the reason why I go by this definition, because it is literally defined in science, is replacing your total daily energy expenditure with dietary calories. And as Jackson said, it's impossible to hit this number exactly. If you're in a super cold environment, you're going to shiver a little more and your basal metabolic rate is going to go up, because guess what? In order to maintain homeostasis and a homeostatic temperature, you're going to shiver and burn calories. Oh my God, it's like you burned more calories than your quote unquote estimated basal metabolic rate. So you throw exercise into your total daily energy expenditure because that's literally what it's defined as. Mm-hmm. So it's not a matter of, oh yeah, it's extra calories. No, it's not.
Well, that's why I wanted to say it's not. I'm not saying it's extra calories. And that's where I think also a lot of people are getting confused. So
but that's why I keep on trying to say, like, we have to get it out of our heads. Like, if we're gonna define something, make the definition consistent so people stop getting confused.
Because a lot of people think that maintenance is just maintaining your body weight, which is not true at all. There's like your body weight is not just lean mass and fat mass. It's also fluid. There's also glycogen. So it's like there's other factors that will contribute to your actual weight on the scale. So just like maintaining your body weight is like maintenance of your body weight is a whole different conversation versus maintenance of fat mass and lean mass. And plus, energetically, lean mass, like actual lean body mass versus fat mass, energetically are different. They have different maintenance calorie levels. So like that's why it's like when we're like she's saying, we need to have an actual defined, like real definition of maintenance calories and stop just going off of the gym bro. Oh yeah, maintenance is just maintaining your weight. It's like, no.
And also the reason why I'm like, people say that it's just semantics, but the thing is people say it's semantics and then make up their own fluffy definition of it. And it's like, dude, if you're gonna make up your own definition, at least make it a consistent one.
Well, yeah, because they're like, oh, well, like, you're just going to be in a deficit or a surplus, even if you are trying to maintain. It's like, okay, cool. You want to be really hyper, like, pedantic and be like, okay, one day I'm in a 10-calorie surplus, the other day I'm in a 5-calorie deficit. Cool. Have fun trying to track that. Like, that, like, obviously, unless you're able to perfectly hit your TDE, obviously you're never going to be at your maintenance calories. That's not possible. But if we're going to be that pedantic, right, then there is no such thing as maintenance. There isn't. We can never get it. We can never be maintaining fully. We're always going to be balancing back and forth.
But if we are going to go by something, wouldn't you rather have it that you don't gain as much body fat that will literally remember when it is more hypertrophied versus more hyperplastic? And just FYI, everybody has been asking me this. How do I stop hyperplasia? You don't. It's called genetics.
Yeah.
So it's like, and just FYI,
fat cell hyperplasia, by the way. Fat cell hyperplasia, not hypertrophy, not like adding muscle.
Oh yeah. But like the thing is like people have asked me like, oh yeah, what would you rather have, fat cell hyperplasia or hypertrophy? And I'm like, I would rather have neither, because both have really negative consequences that don't go away for years. And I highly doubt that somebody is doing a bulking and cutting cycle for 7 years.
Also, just to kind of go off the bulking and cutting cycle, something that you'll notice, and this is why we talk about main gaining a lot, when you look at bodybuilders who are coming out of shows, you'll notice that they'll first obviously initially gain fat, right? They'll go into their bulk, they'll gain a lot of tissue and a lot of fat mass. But then all of a sudden they start just like maintaining this relative composition. Look at like C-Bum in the off season, right?
Or
goes from
TNF.
Yeah, even TNF is one, and he's not even like a proponent of it, but even he is a good example of this. He gets up to a body fat that he's comfortable like being at, and just maintains it. You can still see his abs. You can still see Chris Bumstead's abs. You can still see definition. So they're no longer pushing body fat, right? So they stopped and they're just growing and focusing on training hard. So they are indirectly doing the very thing that we talk about without even realizing it. And that's why we're trying to like, but here's the thing. They understand that going farther has no benefits. So they, to a point, know that adding fat in itself is not really something that you should be trying to do when you are already at a high body fat percentage.
And it should be even more noted that they are bodybuilders.
Mm-hmm.
If you are just a regular healthy Joe and you're not coming out of a bodybuilding show, you're not coming out of near death fucking body fat.
Yeah, unless you're like underweight, like let's say you start off like really, really skinny, like you are classified BMI underweight, there is no reason to add new fat cells, because if you go into a surplus for your first time, there is, I mean, you're gonna have some fat cell hyperplasia, so you're gonna add new fat cells that didn't exist before. But for you, that's a good thing, right? If you are underweight, you need that fat to maintain more like, I guess, normal functionality in your body. And then you know.
Also, just to preface, the reason why healthy body fat is called healthy body fat is because, as we said, we don't have an exact number for your TDEE. So let's say you go outside, it's winter, you're shivering a little extra. Oh, now you're dipping into your body fat stores, even if you're eating at your
that's what I was gonna say.
TDEE.
You're so that's why, like, I was gonna say, like, even like underweight people are almost comparable to bodybuilders who are like on stage, because they are not healthy at all. If you do the blood work of someone at 5% body fat, you're going to be like, holy shit, they're close to death, because it's not healthy. It is extremely unhealthy. There's a reason bodybuilders will shoot calories into their system. Some people even binging the day after a show.
You could use me as an example here. When Jackson first knew me, I was really, really lean. It screwed up my mental health, yes, but also, just FYI, when I gained a little bit of body fat, I literally grew a chest because I didn't have any hormones.
So, kind of like, yeah, I was gonna say, like, with underweight people though, kind of going back to that, it is necessary for your healthy, like, to be able to actually rely on fat stores in your body when you need them, because that's the problem, is when you get to a point, like, if you're underweight, you probably have chronic issues with, like, appetite. So there's probably a lot of days that you're struggling to get to your maintenance or above. So you have days probably where you are in a deficit and you're relying on your fat stores for energy. And if you have less fat stores than probably you should have more, then it's going to be an issue when you need to rely on those fat stores for energy, and it's harder to have cellular functions occurring as normal as they should be.
And also, just to add on to that, a lot of people tell me, oh yeah, but doesn't a surplus help you with training? Dude, you're not eating all of your calories right before you train.
Well, this is what I was going to say to that, because it's not about the surplus that gives you more energy. It's the fact that in a surplus, you typically have more macronutrients like carbs and fats. And the thing is, if you just have more carbs and fat in your diet when you're trying to maintain, then you're going to have all that energy. And plus, there's only so much like glycogen you can store.
That's literally what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
When you're in a quote unquote surplus, a lot of people will front load their carbs, front load their fat.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's easier to get that in. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not the surplus of calories because you're not eating all your calories at the start of the day. You're having your calories throughout the day.
Well, that's what I was saying. It's not. That's why I was trying to bring this up. It's like, it's easier to get in more carbs in a surplus because you're sloppier, you're just throwing in calories. But with like maintaining, you have to be a little more specific with your macronutrient breakdown. So you're not just
still have.
Well, yeah, exactly. You can still, that's what I'm saying, but it's harder. So people are just like, well, bulking, you're stronger. It's like, yeah, maybe you're stronger on your bulks because you don't actually treat your maintenance or main gain phases actually correctly. Like, you're just doing like maybe more fat than you should, or maybe more protein.
Well,
okay, quick intermission just to clarify what I was trying to say. In main gaining, you have less calories to play with, so you have to be more intentional with your macronutrient profile. So if you're like being stupid and having like 25% of your diet from carbs, you're not going to give yourself enough carbohydrates to properly fuel your training. Whereas in a bulk, you're just eating more food, so you're unintentionally going to be adding in more carbs, more fat. So it's just easier to hit those goals in a bulk. So people who have no idea how to structure their diet will typically say, oh yeah, it's easier to get stronger in a bulk. It's like, yeah, probably because your diet sucks.
Also, a lot of people, so I've had some people in my DMs, and just FYI, I do answer my DMs to the people who are actually giving me important questions. I try to. The people who have reached out to me, they were like, oh yeah, I was doing maintenance and I couldn't get stronger. I'm like, well, what did you have before your workout on a surplus versus what did you have before when you were doing your maintenance phase? And they go, oh yeah, I had an apple and a little bit of peanut butter on my surplus and I had nothing before my maintenance. Like,
well, also, here's my other thing to that, because I will get questions like that all the time. It's like, I get stronger, so I was like, I'm not getting stronger on maintenance. It's like, okay, here's the problem. If someone theoretically, like I'm a good example, if I can get stronger in a deficit with the specific macronutrient breakdown that I have, why do you think it's impossible to get stronger on maintenance? Like that, it shouldn't be a question of like, oh, it's the calories. No, it's a question of what kind of calories are you having? And then also, what does your training look like?
Also, are you being smart? You can set up a maintenance where you're having an apple and peanut butter before your workout.
Well, that's what I'm also saying. It's also about, that's what I'm saying.
Like,
it's the kind of foods that you eat. Not like saying that there's bad foods. It's more like there's...
Just be smart about it.
Yeah, you can intelligently program your main gain phase to have more carbohydrates, less fats, and a moderate amount of protein, enough to stimulate and maximize protein synthesis, and you'll be fine. As long as your training is good, you're gonna have really good growth no matter what you really do. I mean, you can still have amazing progress and see lots of progressive overload in a deficit if you do that too. So that just goes to show it really is a matter of how you train, and then the kinds of things you eat leading up to training that are going to fuel your workouts.
Like, it quite literally has nothing to do with the surplus benefiting you. It's the fact that you literally just have a pre-workout meal. Because a lot of people, they're like, oh yeah, I don't eat breakfast when I'm doing my maintenance phase. Like, dude, no crap that
I was
you're
gonna say,
not
just remember
making
this.
any progress.
Just remember this. The calories that you eat from a surplus are considered excess. They are more than your body needs to function. So the calories that you eat on top of the needed calories are not going towards any energetic function inside your body. They are getting stored as fat. That is what excess calories do. They are stored as adipose. they're
just
stored.
FYI, like,
Sorry. Yeah.
having it stored as adipose, as I said before, confers negative side effects in the future. Like, if you do have, just so, whether you have fat cell hyperplasia versus fat cell hypertrophy is very genetically predisposed. Yes, sure, it can kind of depend on how fast you gain weight, but for the most part, it's genetic, which is why there is such thing as a hyperplastic versus a hypertrophic phenotype. So whether or not you get new fat cells or your fat cells get bigger, that's mainly predisposed by genetics, which is a reason why some people find it more difficult to lose weight in a cut versus some people finding it more difficult to gain weight on a bulk or something like that.
Okay.
And it's all down to like the kinds of hormones, because your fat cells do secrete hormones. So the more fat cells that you have, the more of those hormones that you're going to get. And it's not something that goes away. So once you get a lot of fat cells, it takes approximately 7 years of you maintaining that number of fat cells, or a lower or a higher number of fat cells, for that amount of fat cells to stay or go away.
All right. But yeah, so in short, okay, what main gaining is obviously not perfect maintenance. That is not physiologically possible. I think anyone with a brain can agree on that. However, what main gaining is trying to maintain a healthy body fat composition, anywhere between 12 to 18% body fat, okay? Hopefully we all understand that. So if you're under that body fat percentage, you should try to bulk up to that healthy body fat percentage. If you are above it, you should cut down. Then once you get to that body fat percentage that you're comfortable with, it is simple as just trying to eat as close to that maintenance calories as possible, having a lot of carbs, having a good amount of protein, and a little bit lower fats. Not saying you have to have no fats, because if you do that, that's not great. But having a good amount of fats as well. Typically, I think like it's aimed for like 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. It's like 35 to 45% of your diet from carbs, and then also I think it's like 15 to 25% fat. I don't know the exact ratios off the top of my head. I'll throw them up on the screen, but as long as you're getting in a healthy amount of like omega-3s, a good amount of omega-6, you're going to be able to regulate your hormones properly, and then minimal saturated fat, just for like health benefits of just not, clogging your arteries. Moral of the story is you can achieve amazing results as long as you understand the process, right? Those bodybuilders who are bulking up, they're not growing and gaining exponential amounts of muscle in that process from 5% to 15 to 16, 17% body fat. They are just gaining exponential fat for maintaining a healthier, blood levels, healthier life, and just feeling better. That's why they're doing that, so that they can train harder and grow. So the off season where you see bodybuilders jack up their fat their fat level, it's just because of that. It's not because you build more muscle by eating more calories. The excess calories, as we said, get stored as fat. Okay, that's the end of the story. So hopefully this clears things up. If you have questions, obviously you can drop them in the comments below, but I think this is the end of the video. So yeah, well, goodbye.